Hello, this is Oscar today on VE Day and the moments leading up on VE Day's 75th anniversary. Europe in 1933, Third Reich and Poland. Very powerful in Europe, but there was a problem. Leading figures like Hitler and Mussolini had taken up power and believed they should rule all of Europe. Hitler used force by powerful armies and secret police called Gestapo. Then all of a sudden he became leader of the Nazi party after he was working as a government ambassador. So after Hitler decided, hey, Prussia was separated from Germany because of Poland, so Hitler invaded Poland after Austria and Czechoslovakia. France and Britain declared war on the result of hearing Poland's invasion. Britain was really well prepared because children were sent to the countryside, men were forced to enlist, they sent men over to France. But the major thing about the war was who controlled the skies, because whoever controlled the skies would win the war. So as Germany invaded Belgium, Holland, France and all the other countries it could invade of Europe, it took over. Meanwhile, while British troops and French troops were trapped, they managed to evacuate at Dunkirk. After Dunkirk, Hitler and his generals making plans to invade Britain. They'll land in Kent. Under the threat of constant invasion, women and teenagers were forced to enlist to help the RAF. Right before invasion was planned, Hitler needed to control the skies, so then a fierce battle began, the Battle of Britain, where the greatly outnumbered British faced the Luftwaffe squadrons, which highly outnumbered them but not as highly skilled. The British got help from New Zealand, Australians, Indian pilots to help win the war effort. In rationing was occurring in civilian population, so most food imported was so rare people would do anything to get their hands on it. In German-occupied cities, people were driven out their homes, arrested, put in concentration camps or killed, basically. The worst places where these happened were Poland and the Soviet Union. The Blitz, Hitler decided instead of the Battle of Britain, was because he was bored of just wasting fighter planes when he could just starve them into surrender. Then Operation Barbarossa started. Germany invaded Russia, So Pearl Harbor then, while Operation Barbarossa was happening, Pearl Harbor was happening when the Japanese bombed the Americans, which made the Americans declare war. Winston Churchill, Franklin D. Roosevelt and Joseph Stalin were the leaders of the Allies. They wanted to stamp out Hitler and his bullies. 1942, it's going well for Hitler as he's almost won the war technically. All you need to do is knock out the USA in Britain. Operation Crusader happened in North Africa and the Middle East when the British tried to secure Italy's lands in Africa and the Middle East, so Hitler had to send in troops. While the Japanese Navy fought a fierce battle at Midway against the Americans. Meanwhile, back in Britain, the women had to go do all the things men had to do because of all the struggle around the world. With the bombing raids coming more frequent and more damage, they didn't really have nothing to do but fight and just do what they were told. Meanwhile, in 1944, Operation was going successful in Southeast Asia, where the British are defeating the Japanese in Burma, and one big thing was coming next, D-Day, the day the war changed. Today, VE Day was already created. D-Day was the biggest coastal invasion ever, where they were fought to liberate France and all the other countries to stomp out Nazi Germany. Well, it was going well in 1945 as they kept on pushing, and the Germans forced them to pay with every step of the blood. Meanwhile, all the leaders met at Yalta and decided that once they had finished, they would still occupy Germany, yet and hold elections for new leaders. Winston Churchill was the most inspirable leader ever. He encouraged us throughout the war until VE Day. May 7th, Germany surrendered. The day after, VE Day was announced. VE Day was celebrated after Germany surrendered and Hitler committed suicide. Parties were thrown in the streets, bonfires burning Nazi flags, soldiers coming home, all that happy cheerfulness. Everyone was happy. There was no reason to be sad. Anyway, VE Day celebrations were wild. But after VE Day, rationing would still continue because they would have to get the food levels back up after the number of ships they had lost in the Atlantic Ocean from German submarines. Men would still have to stay in the armed forces, restrictions would still be in place, no one needed to worry about fighting or being bombed anymore in Europe. It would be another 3 months until the war finished finally, until when Japan surrendered after Hiroshima and Nagasaki with the A-bombs. Winston Churchill, King George and Princess Elizabeth were celebrating it by giving a huge welcome to the crowd at Buckingham Palace. Meanwhile, while an RAF fly-off was led by the legendary Douglas Bader, there were picnics everywhere. It was just like heaven had come down to earth. Nothing was worried about. Everyone knows that another war won't happen again. As devastating as World War 2. Thank you for listening to me on the VE Day 75th anniversary. Bye. I hope you enjoyed.